So we are going to be talking about different sorts of substances and the addictions behind them. This was a question that I was asked. I've done a bit of research and I've looked into things. And like I say, the principles for recovery remain the same for everybody. But the addiction and the struggles change. So I'm going to split this many day course, if I can word it that way, into two parts. The first one is going to be the addiction map, which is a clear overview of all the major addictive substances and behaviors grouped by what they do. And then the second talk will be the deep dive, where we discuss one substance and one behavior at a time, and we cover its compositions, its effects, addiction potential, withdrawal symptoms, consequences, recovery, and the recovery mindset. So part one is the addiction map. We talk about uppers, which are stimulants. These generally increase activity in the central nervous system, producing energy, alertness, confidence, excitement, and reduced appetite. So what are some of these things? Well, let me tell you a couple names and what it does. Number one, cocaine. It is an intense euphoria. It builds confidence, energy, but it's short-lived it's a short-lived high, followed by a big crash. Then we have crack cocaine, which is rapid, extremely intense cocaine high, particularly reinforcing because of its fast onset. Then we have methamphetamine, or TUC, more commonly known in South Africa as TUC. It's a powerful stimulation, gives you energy, wakefulness, and euphoria. It has significant psychiatric and physical consequences. Then we have amphetamines, which gives you increased alertness, energy, and concentration. Then you have prescription stimulants, which can improve attention therapeutically, but can be misused for stimulation and euphoria. And we've spoken about over-the-counter medication before. That is part of that. Then we have MDMA, or a better word that you might know is ecstasy, or X or E. It's a stimulation combined with increased emotional openness and sensory enhancement. E is something that I particularly used. Then caffeine, believe it or not, it's a mild stimulant, and it can produce dependence withdrawal. And then probably the most common one in the world is nicotine, cigarettes. It rapidly stimulates reward pathways and produces strong dependence. So the core recovery lessons that we'll go through with this is that a person isn't simply addicted to energy. They're often chasing dopamine, confidence, escape, motivation, or relief from emotional pain. The second part of this is the downers, the depressants. These slow the central nervous system and can produce relaxation, sedation, reduced anxiety, and impaired judgment. Some of these, the most common one is alcohol. It is a disinhibition, relaxation, impaired judgment, and coordination. You got benzos, otherwise known as benzodiazepines, if I said that correctly, but benzos, we all know benzos. That is anxiety reduction, sedation, and memory impairment. You've got barbiturates, which is a strong CNS depression and sedation. GHB, a lot of people know GHB. That's sedation, relaxation, and alerted consciousness. Certain sleeping medications, we know people, it's very common to fall into addiction with sleeping pills, which is obviously sedation and impaired cognition. And then the last one is some prescription sedatives. Again, we spoke about over-the-counter medications previously, and that is for relaxation and reduced anxiety, but they can produce dependence. The core recovery lessons on these is the person isn't necessarily addicted to being stoned, if we can word it that way, but they may be addicted to not feeling anxiety fear, trauma, loneliness, shame, or emotional pain. Number 3 is opioids, painkillers, and euphoria. These deserve their own category because they have powerful effects on the brain's reward and pain system. So things like heroin, it's a powerful euphoria, sedation, and pain relief. Morphine, strong pain relief and sedation. You have codeine, which is something that addicts take a big step towards not using because it's found in most painkillers. And that is a strong pain relief and sedation. And dependence on it can develop. It is very addictive. You have oxycodone. It's a powerful prescription opioid painkiller. Fentanyl, extremely potent opioid with very high overdose risk. People have passed away from using it. Tramadol, which is a prescription analgesic with opioid activity. And then you have other illicit or synthetic opioids where the effects can vary, but they produce powerful dependence. And our core recovery lessons on these is that opioid addiction can create a particularly powerful cycle of reward, tolerance, dependence, withdrawal, craving, and relapse. Number 4 is cannabis, weed. And cannabis doesn't fit very neatly into the upper or downer because it can produce relaxation, euphoria, altered perception, increased appetite, impaired short-term memory, slower reaction times, anxiety or paranoia in some people. I think anyone that's gone through the drug side has smoked weed before, and there's different types of weed. But some people develop cannabis use disorder, particularly with frequent or high potency use. And the recovery lesson on this one is that natural, because it is a natural drug, does not automatically mean non-addictive. The important question is what role the substance has taken in a person's life. The 5th one is hallucinogens or psychedelics. And these primarily alter perception, thought, and sensory experience. Examples of these are LSD, psilocybin. I'm sorry if I get some of these words wrong. They are hard words to say. DMT, mescaline, ketamine, which I think is the most common one. It's more accurately classified as a dissociative anesthetic. And possible effects of these can include altered perception, visual phenomena, distorted sense of time, intensified emotions, changes in thought patterns, and association with some substances. I know psychedelics, man, let's not go into that. Bad memories. But possible effects include altered perceptions, visual phenomena, distorted sense of time, intensified emotions, changes in thought patterns, and dissociation with some substances. I know I said it before. I'm just going over it again for you. Physical dependence is generally different from substances such as alcohol, opioids, or benzos, but psychological risk and problematic issues because of use can still occur. Dissociatives. These can create a feeling of detachment from the body or surroundings. For example, ketamine, PCP, DXM in certain cough medicines. The potential effects include detachment, distorted perception, confusion, reduced pain perception, hallucinations, impaired coordination. The 7th one that I'll talk about is inhalants. These are chemicals whose vapors are inhaled to produce intoxication. And examples of these are things like glue, solvents, some aerosols, gas products, industrial chemicals. This is particularly important in South African recovery context because substances such as glue and other inhalants can be accessible to very young people. And it's a problem in South Africa where I am, for those that are watching abroad. Potential consequences of this include brain and nervous system injury, organ damage, cardiac problems, loss of consciousness, sudden death. Number 8, nicotine. This deserves its own discussion, despite being a stimulant. And obvious examples are cigarettes, cigars, nicotine pouches, vapes, other tobacco products. You see, nicotine produces rapid reinforcement and can create strong dependence. The recovery lesson on nicotine is a person can be completely committed to recovery from alcohol or drugs while still struggling with nicotine dependence. Addiction doesn't always disappear simply because the most dangerous substance has been removed. Number 9, prescription medication addiction. This isn't one specific drug category. People can become dependent on or misuse opioid painkillers, benzos, stimulants, sleep medications, other prescription medications. And here's the important distinction we'll make in the talks. Physical dependence, tolerance, misuse, and addiction aren't necessarily the same thing. That's an important piece of education for recovering addicts. So in the next video, we'll discuss part 2, which is the behavioral addictions. And by that, what am I talking about? Things like gambling, pornography, social media, gaming, which I think will offend a few people, food, compulsive shopping, work. And then we'll go on to part 3, which is the other addictions we should discuss. And we'll touch on things like relationships or attachment obsession, exercise compulsion, adrenaline seeking, online sexual behavior, risk taking, excessive phone or internet compulsive use. And we'll go over all of these things. This is going to be a very, very long course. I really hope that I'll answer the questions that people have. And I'll see you for the outline of part 2 tomorrow.